There's this silent, invisible fire burning inside you right this very second. It's wild, right? It's a process that's always on, something we totally take for granted, but it's what powers literally every living thing on this planet. So today, we're going to dive into the absolutely fascinating world of respiration.
All right, so what do you, a fish, and a tree all have in common? I mean, really think about it. On the surface, they seem completely different, worlds apart. But what if I told you there's one single, absolutely essential process that connects them all, the very thing that keeps them all alive?
Well, the answer is they all need to unlock energy from their food. Every single one of them. From the tiniest cell working away inside you to the deepest root of a massive tree, they've all got to get that power locked away in their food source. And that, my friends, is exactly what respiration is all about. Okay, so let's get into it. When most of us hear the word respiration, our minds immediately jump to breathing, right? In and out. But here's the thing. Breathing is just the first step. It's only part of the story. The real magic, the really cool stuff happens on a microscopic level, deep, deep inside your cells. Yeah, think of it like this. Respiration is the actual chemical process that turns the food you eat into usable fuel. Breathing, that's just the delivery service. It's like the Amazon Prime for oxygen, bringing in one of the key ingredients. Respiration is the moment your cells take that delivery, open the box, and finally get to use the energy inside. In fact, you can really break this whole thing down into a super simple recipe. Seriously, your cells take 1 part glucose, that's the sugar from your food, and they mix it with 1 part oxygen, which you just breathed in. And what do you get? The main course is energy. And then you have a couple of byproducts, a little carbon dioxide and water left on the plate. So, okay, that recipe works for us, but how do all the other creatures out there get the oxygen they need? I mean, a fish can't just take a deep breath, right? Well, as you're about to see, nature has come up with some unbelievably creative solutions to this problem. For land dwellers with a backbone, birds, reptiles, and us, the answer is lungs. These things are just amazing. They're basically like these super efficient biological sponges, perfectly designed to soak up as much oxygen as they possibly can from the air we breathe. But what happens when you live underwater? Lungs are pretty much useless there. That's where gills come into play. Look at these feathery things. They're absolute masters at pulling dissolved oxygen straight out of the water. It just goes to show you, evolution is incredibly clever at finding a way. And then you have insects, who are on a whole other level. They have a completely different system. Instead of one mouth, they have this network of tiny little holes all over their bodies called spiracles. These holes open up to a whole series of tubes that pipe oxygen directly to their tissues. It's like having a custom-built HVAC system for every part of your body. And just when you think it can't get any weirder, get this. Some animals, like earthworms and even frogs, can actually breathe right through their skin. How cool is that? Talk about being efficient. Okay, so we've seen how a bunch of other creatures handle it. But let's bring it back home. What's actually happening inside our own bodies? Let's follow the journey of a single breath, from the moment it enters your nose all the way to its final destination. All right, our journey begins in the nasal cavity. This is like the welcome lobby, where the air gets warmed up and filtered. From there, it's down the trachea, the windpipe, and then it splits into this massive, branching network of tubes that seriously looks like an upside-down tree. And at the very, very end of the tiniest little branches, we find these millions of tiny air sacs called the alveoli. This is it. This is where the magic happens. Inside these tiny, tiny sacs, an incredible exchange takes place. It's like a perfectly choreographed handoff. The oxygen you just breathed in crosses over into your bloodstream, and at the exact same time, the carbon dioxide, that waste product from our energy recipe, crosses out of your blood and into the alveoli, ready to be exhaled. It's this beautiful, constant dance that keeps us all going. Now, we've been talking a lot about animals, but what about plants? I know what you're thinking. Plants do photosynthesis, they make oxygen, but here's a little secret, a bit of a plot twist. They have to breathe too. They also need to perform respiration to turn the food they make into energy they can actually use. So obviously, plants don't have noses or lungs, but what they do have are thousands of tiny little pores. On the leaves, you'll find stomata, and on the stems, they're called lenticels. You can think of both of them as tiny microscopic doorways that open and close to let gases move in and out. And it's not just the parts of the plant you can see. Even the roots, deep down in the soil, need to breathe. They actually pull in oxygen from the little air pockets between soil particles. And that, by the way, is exactly why you can kill a plant by overwatering it. You're basically drowning its roots, and it can't breathe. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about this recipe for energy and exhaling carbon dioxide, but how can we be sure that's what's really happening? Well, it turns out there's a really simple classic experiment that lets you see the proof with your own two eyes. All you need is this stuff called lime water. Now, normally it's perfectly clear, just like water, but it has one very cool trick up its sleeve. It turns milky and cloudy whenever it comes into contact with carbon dioxide. So check this out. If you take a straw and just bubble regular room air through the lime water, pretty much nothing happens. It stays clear. But then, if you use the straw to bubble your own exhaled breath through it, bam, the lime water turns milky almost instantly. It's such a simple but powerful visual proof that your body is producing carbon dioxide with every single breath. All right, so let's pull this all together. Respiration, at its core, is just how living things get energy from food. Simple as that. We've seen that organisms have all sorts of tools for the job: lungs, gills, even skin. And plants are in on it too, with their stomata and lenticels. And that cloudy lime water experiment, that's just a cool way to prove that this amazing chemical reaction is happening inside you right now as we speak. It's pretty incredible when you stop and think about it, isn't it? This one process, this invisible fire, connects you to a fish, to an insect, to the biggest tree in the forest. It makes you wonder, what other invisible processes are out there, quietly working behind the scenes, keeping our entire world alive and running? Definitely something to think about.